Welcome, everyone, to New York Sofalites. There's a lot going on in the world, and we have a lot to say about it. I'm here with my oldest friend, Rachel, and I'm Gretchen, and we are doing part one of our Wuthering Heights movie reaction.
Yes, similar to Emerald Fennell, we're just doing part one.
Yes. There will be a part two later with my sister Stephanie. So she'll be back on to discuss a little bit further. But yeah, so we all saw Wuthering Heights. I had the pleasure of seeing it in an empty theater by myself.
Shocked. And this was on, it was like during the opening week.
Yeah,
You
it
saw
was
it in a
Tuesday.
completely empty theater.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
That's
it was
wild.
I mean, it was a Tuesday, and it is. I did see it like in the special Dolby theater that it was Apple Cinemas. I was up in Rochester, New York, and
That's fancy.
yeah, but it's all bargain day, and it was like $7 for that for regular one and $9 for this one. I was like, whatever, I'll do the extra $1.50 for whatever, and I was the only one there. So yeah.
Amazing. So you basically had a private screening.
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Stephanie and I saw it together.
I'm jealous. Yeah.
I really, really wish that you had been there.
Me too.
Although you had such like an amazing experience. I feel like it was better.
It was second. It was second to seeing it with you guys. Yeah.
Yeah. So we went on Valentine's Day with our husbands. We had a few cocktails, so we were kind of like in the Wuthering mood. And we had a great time. There was a gentleman sitting next to us who was by himself. He was like a gentleman in like his mid-50s. He was by himself in his like police cap.
Oh, interesting.
Really wanted to know the story there.
Yeah, what's going on there? Interesting. Okay.
He really seemed to enjoy it.
Okay. I like it. I'm wondering why he's still wearing his cap in the theater, but okay. Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe he was in disguise. I don't know.
Maybe.
It was a little chilly that day.
Okay.
So,
okay. Yeah. But Yeah, so what were your first thoughts, like as you were leaving the theater? Like what are you thinking? Or what were you thinking during the movie?
I had a lot of thoughts during this movie. I feel like I was very into it. I have to say, like, I don't want to bury the lead. I loved it. My heights were fully withered, like so many other people on the internet. It all really worked for me. Yeah, I had a great time.
Yeah.
What about you?
So I do want to, pose the caveat that I was extremely tired. I had woken up at like 4:30 a.m. to drive to Rochester for work. I did a full day of work stuff, and then I went to this after work.
It's like a weird headspace.
Yeah. So I do want to note that, but I think I was a little. It's hard for me to tell how I felt about it because I was definitely a little less like excited about it afterwards. But I kept thinking about it, and so it's definitely like in my head. Like the next day, I was like kind of in a bad mood. I'm like, am I in a bad mood because of Wuthering Heights? Like, what's happening here? And yeah. And I think I think I really liked the beginning. I think I saw
with the kids.
Yeah, at the beginning and like what before she kind of meets the Lintons. Like I saw glimpses of the book there, and I saw like the tension was very palpable, and it made a lot of like it had a little bit more depth. Though I was in kind of a reactionary state where I really tried to leave the book at the door, but I was like, that's not how it was. That's like in my head I was like kind of being cranky. I'm like, that's not right. Yeah, I know. I'm like, Joseph, what is he supposed to be awful and putting them in church and stuff? So I really tried, but I think I need to see it again in a better headspace and just see if I still have the same reactions.
Yes.
So I'm definitely still thinking about it, so that means something. So, yeah.
Yes, I have to say that there were some things that I bumped on. There were some that, it wasn't perfect. I thought that most of the adaptive choices worked for me. I appreciated Joseph. I appreciated that casting because I like that actor and because he was the only person doing the correct accent.
Yeah.
So
Jacob Elordi.
Oh my God, he's Australian.
I could understand him a couple times. I was like, "Dang, you're
That was
you're going
like
hard," but
actually the first thing that I said when we left the theater is I was like, is that what Margot Robbie thinks British people sound like?
I know. She's like, she really went really deep into Kathy character, but did not study the accents.
It was a rough look for accents generally across the board. I have to respect Hong Chow for like not even trying.
Yeah,
She
I
was
know.
just like, I will not be doing an accent. And then, you know, it really wasn't distracting because it sounded natural. So
yeah, it just was like, it wasn't like there was ins and outs and stuff. I will say it really got me, like, every time Heathcliff said Kath, it really got
sounded
like,
so Australian.
I loved it though. I was like, oh, okay. I like he'd be like Kath. Like I can't do it, but like
Yeah.
Kath.
It was
no
the most Queensland line reading of a name ever. First of all, not to like go there.
Yeah.
But she's never referred to as Kath in the book. That is
No.
full Australian.
No. But I did enjoy that. I did. I very much was like, oh, I love, like no one else called her Kath, so I loved it. I was like, oh, this is so sweet. But yeah, the accents were troublesome. Yes,
The accents were wild.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? Actually, her father
yeah,
I think he's an English actor. He was doing like a pretty passable
yeah.
accent.
They're in Yorkshire, right? So
They're supposed to be in York. They're supposed to be like Downton Abbey accents, which I love, or like The Secret Garden, if you like.
Mm-hmm.
But
One or the other.
I think, yeah, we really tried.
We tried. Yeah.
We tried so hard, and we appreciate. There's one word in particular that like every time Margot Robbie said this word, she said it like 150 times. I can't remember what word it was, but I was like, I've never heard anyone pronounce it that way before.
Oh my god. Yeah. It was. Luckily, there was enough going on where I could kind of forget about it. But when it like dropped in, sometimes I'd be like, "Oh, yeah, she's not British."
Yeah, no, that's it was wild. But generally this movie very much worked for me. And like, yeah, the adaptive choices were interesting. They were not, most of them were fine. Most of them were in service of the fact that they were not going to do the second half of the book. So that was fine. Like condensing the Earnshaw men into one man, just like having it be her father and not her father and then her brother, that was fine. Because if you're not doing generational trauma, you don't need that brother.
Yeah.
You don't need everyone to be cousins. So like, you know, I guess if you're not doing generational trauma, then Isabella doesn't need to be Edgar's sister.
Yeah.
But she could have been.
She could have been. And the only thing that really bothered me about the casting, which I've brought up previously, and I don't want to harp on it too much because I know this, we've said it many times, but the racial thing, because Earnshaw or Linton was a man of color, which was crazy to me. He was supposed to be like a blonde guy when Heathcliff was the person of color. And so that was crazy. I was like, what are you doing? Like this
is what I think about that. Is it like, we'll get to this. I have some things to say about this coming from like all of the reviews that I've read of this movie. But, you know, the fact that they chose to have a white Heathcliff is really neither here nor there for my purposes of this movie. But the fact that like they chose to cast a performer who's not white in the Linton role, I thought was kind of cool because they're doing something completely different with this role, which is that they're setting up people who have generational wealth as being the Earnshaws at Wuthering Heights, and then they're setting up people who have to work for a living as the Lintons being in Thrushcross Grange.
Yeah, and LA.
So in that respect, I thought that it worked. I did think that like there really was no reason for them not to be brother and sister, even though they were not the same race. I'm like, we've all seen Hamilton. It's fine.
Yeah.
But I did appreciate that they tried at least to be like, he sells fabric. He works in textiles.
Velvet,
like he had to earn his money, and now he's,
Mm-hmm.
even though the wealth is not generational, he has more wealth than the
Yeah.
Earnshaws at that
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah.
So I don't
Yeah.
know. For me, that worked. It was a little bit of like mental gymnastics though to get there.
Yeah. I think just for me, like one of the whole points of Wuthering Heights is about being othered and being othered in the isolation of the place. Heathcliff by being someone who wasn't white or wasn't of the place he was in. And so, like, the idea of these people coming in, the Lintons, and being of the world was so, like, weird to them. And so, there was no, for me, that sense of, like, being othered was so much less palpable. And I think that was a problem for me a little bit. And I think it came, but what I did like about it and about the interpretation was that she was really othered because of her family. It was because of her dad and the way that he behaved and the way that he kind of, operated and kept, in some ways, them isolated, but also just like she was ashamed. So I could relate to it that way. There's a little bit of, I could see what they were doing there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's the only thing that kind of bothered me because I was like, that's such an, like, for me that was so important when I read it, and so that kind of bugged me. But I see what you mean. Like they do bring up that the Earnshaws have been there since 1500, and this guy has new money, and so it's a totally different thing. Yeah.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
so I don't know. I think that the parts of the book that they kept, I appreciated. I appreciated a fully new, fresh narrative. They completely reframed all of these characters. They
Mm-hmm.
completely fleshed out motivations for some characters that, like, we talked about when we talked about the book, like it
Mm-hmm.
really not being there
Mm-hmm.
as maybe a function of that book not being edited
Yeah.
well or at
Mm-hmm.
all when it was
Mm-hmm.
originally written. So,
Yeah.
I don't know. For me, I felt great coming out of that
Yeah.
theater. Yeah. So I know that we want to save like a lot of the
Yeah.
juicy stuff for when we have this conversation with Stephanie. But what do we want to talk about
Well,
generally?
I would love to. I don't know if you want to say this for Stephanie, but I would love to hear what you thought of Isabella because you mentioned her specifically,
She was my favorite
yeah.
part.
So I want to hear what you because because I'm still like digesting. I think what they did with Isabella, and I'm still like,
I think a lot of people are, and I did a little bit of like research
mm-hmm.
about this because it's really like I've read a lot of reviews of this
Mm-hmm.
movie, and a lot of the reviews were quite bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
a lot of
like
people didn't
I
like it. Yeah.
even like a lot of reviewers that I respect and that I like gave this movie really harsh reviews.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of the reviewers that reviewed it badly were upfront about saying that they didn't read this book.
Interesting.
And here's what I have
Okay.
to say is that
Okay.
if you were not wounded by the book, then you didn't know how much you needed to be healed by the movie. And
Yeah.
oh my God, like Alison Oliver's performance as
Mm-hmm.
Isabella Linton healed me in ways that I didn't even know I needed.
Yeah, I will say, like, this book, I think the problem I have, and just to back up about what you're saying about the reviewers not reading the book, is if this hadn't been a book I loved, I feel like I wouldn't have been going to see this movie per se. It would have been like another period drama.
Mhm.
And so
We love a period drama.
Of
like,
course, of course.
Yeah,
But
we're not
like
missing a period drama.
No, but I just feel like the pull was like the kind of tenets of the book, but it didn't always deliver on what was pulling me in to see the movie. So I think that was kind of the issue I had. So if you hadn't read the book, then it's like, what is this movie to me? But then it still didn't deliver in some of the ways. I think that's kind of the issue I'm struggling with.
I would agree with that because, yeah, I definitely did try to leave the book at the door and look at this as like a completely separate and distinct property, and I think that people should.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But also, I went back and I read, because I was like, that is so, like, it's so different what they do with her character when she
Yeah, Isabella. Yeah,
marries, when Isabella marries Heathcliff in the book. We're like, honestly, why?
yeah,
And they reframe it in such a way that, like, first of all, his motivation is completely different because
yeah.
at this point in the story of the film, Heathcliff has been having an affair with Kathy, and then he is rejected by her. And Kathy says, I'm not having this affair anymore, and we're done. And Heathcliff is feeling very hurt. And that is when he gets the idea of revenge. So his revenge is completely different. It's revenge, it's just pure and simple romantic revenge on
Yes,
Catherine.
yes.
It's giving like War of the Roses.
Dangerous liaisons, like kind of, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
like it's much simpler than it is in the novel, which I think is great. And so like he comes in and he like just like shows Isabella and everyone in the world how sexy consent can be, and
That's true. Yeah.
they hatch this plan together. They're like, here's what we're gonna do is like we a unit as a couple, we are gonna write these letters and we're gonna trick Kathy into thinking that something absolutely profane is going on up at Wuthering Heights.
Yeah.
And then when she comes here to rescue Isabella, she's gonna be like chained up to the fireplace barking like a dog, and everyone's gonna be horrified. It's gonna be great. This is how we get Kathy back.
Yeah.
It's a weird plan, but at least it's a plan. And I absolutely loved it. It gave Isabella some agency. Like
Yeah.
she
Yeah.
was into it. She was like a little freak. She like Kathy, she was like completely
I mean, she's a
imprisoned by
sub.
her
Yeah.
desire
Yeah.
for Heathcliff, and
Yeah.
like, who could blame her?
Yeah.
But like she definitely like she was a consenting party to this plan. She seemed like she was having a great time. And I really, I went back and I read that section of the book, and like what is described in the book is it's one of the letters that Isabella writes to Nellie. And I remembered this from my first reading because it's a really long letter. Like this letter would have been like 30 pages long. It, goes into like all the details as you have to do when you're using writing letters as your framing device for your novel. But then I was like thinking about it and I was like, who's to say? She wrote that in the letter, but who's to say what was really going on?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's essentially what they showed in the movie was her writing this letter.
Yeah.
And then showing what was really happening. And it was
yeah,
totally different.
It was not a reliable, factual letter. It was a ploy, and it was, I don't know. I just thought it was very cute, very an original idea, and one that like, why do we always assume the worst? Like, why can't everybody just be having a great time with some light 18th century BDSM?
That's a really good point, because I like that point of view, because I was struggling, because I was like, well, Isabella was the one she was also heartsick in the book for Heathcliff. We didn't really know why. There was less explanation as to why, but you got this
because he's hot.
He's just so hot. Yeah,
he's so hot.
Yeah, but I think like also it was a more I mean I want to say more relatable, but that's not to necessarily king shame anyone. It's just like maybe more universal feeling of like, oh, I can fix him. Like that's kind of like what I assumed. She was, if we take her word for it and take Nellie's word for it, she was essentially like an abused woman, and then we're turning her into someone who's like very much not. But I really like enjoy what your interpretation. I really appreciate, because she has agency. That scene where like he's just coming in the room, he's like, so do you want me to stop? Like every time.
Oh my God.
That was so hot. I was like, oh my God.
Consent is so hot.
Yeah, I know. I was like, wait a minute, I like this, like, because it's funny, because for me, Jacob Elordi is a very good looking man. For whatever reason, as the movie went on, he got less hot to me. I can't explain why. I don't know.
The hair?
Maybe it was the hair. I don't know. But in that scene, I was like, oh, dang. Like, yeah, he is still very hot. But I think I just really liked him with
And
a beard.
tall.
Yeah,
So,
he's
so
like,
tall.
yeah, I know. A lot of the reviews I saw online, like the one line quippy reviews were like, this was historically accurate to Jacob Elordi being 6'5". Like, that was the movie.
I think he's taller than that.
Yeah. Oh, didn't he say, like, what did he say to
Well, he was
Chelsea Handler?
making a 6'7" joke, but I think that
Oh,
I don't know. We'll have to corroborate this somehow.
I thought he was being truthful. I thought he was
He
really
seems
6'7".
truly so tall. And when he was in that scene, he has to like really like kind
He's
of
hunching over
like
almost. Yeah.
hunch over her, and his like he's physically so imposing, but you're not like nervous for her.
No,
Like
because she's
you're
like,
like excited.
yeah.
She's in control.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
he's not moving a muscle until she like gives him the okay. It's like
Mm-hmm.
very the tension in that scene was so so good.
Yeah,
They were
it was
both so
great.
good. They have such
Yeah,
great chemistry.
they did. Yeah.
They all had really great chemistry, the whole
Mm-hmm.
cast.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed.
And it was interesting to me that like I feel like when we talk in movies about like well this wouldn't pass the Bechdel test because there's
Mm-hmm.
never like women talking to each other about things that are not men. I feel like if there were a reverse Bechdel test, this movie would not pass it because two men do not talk to each other the entire movie.
That's true. That's so true. Yeah, you're right. Except at the very, very
Until
end
the
when,
very, very
yeah,
end, which I thought was very sweet, but I will say,
yeah.
if we're making the comparison, the scene in the book is so much stronger.
Mm-hmm.
It's doing the same thing. It's giving all the same beats. I wouldn't have changed it.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I think that it was very. There was a lot of compassion coming from. I mean, cause it's so hard because I think you really do get this sense. What the other thing I liked about the movie, as I'm thinking about looking back, it was you get the sense of like, yeah, why wouldn't she love Edgar Linton? Like she was happy, she was peaceful, there was no disruption, and he was very compassionate. And yes, it wasn't a very passionate relationship. Yes, there were obviously things missing, but he gave his sympathies to the man who was essentially fucking his wife, because he knew that he was in love with her. And I was like, yeah, that's obviously consistent with his character in that way. But it was just, in the movie. Yeah,
I liked the scene in the movie. I thought that showed a lot of grace. It was a nice scene.
Mm-hmm. But the book is better, yeah, in that scene, yeah.
When we saw it, my husband was like, wait a minute, so no one's getting throat punched? I was like, oh, yeah.
No,
no
sorry.
no one's getting...
Not in this,
Which
yeah.
I would have preferred because I take it back. It's not the same beats. The sympathy is kind of reversed.
Yeah.
In where like Heathcliff it gets punched in the throat, and then instead of fighting Linton, he says, like, we can have our beef later, but you need to take care of your wife, and he leaves.
Yeah.
So like his sympathy, Heathcliff's sympathy obviously is with the woman that he loves, and he understands that like her best chance is if he takes his leave, which is super heartbreaking.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. It's not a long stretch in the book. It's maybe 7 or 8 pages, but it's the strongest, I think. 7 or 8 pages is what I originally like fell in love with about this book, because I was like the restraint of the author, because we're just hearing it through Nellie's like recollection, and like as much as she is a member of this family and has grown up with Catherine or whatever, like it is another day at work for her, and she has to like wait until she can sneak away to go and tell her other childhood best friend that their childhood best friend has died, even though he already knows. She like and then the scene is between Heathcliff and Nellie, and I thought that I wanted more of that relationship in the movie.
Yes.
I felt like, I don't know, like
I didn't love that very much. I didn't love how much animosity was between them, basically. So
yeah, I felt that like even though Nellie was a bitch, like Heathcliff always kind of had her sympathy.
Yeah. In some ways. yeah, I guess most of what she did was really more against Kathy.
Yeah.
Yeah, than Heathcliff. Um, but she was rather. Perhaps I was, I wasn't paying as much attention as I was rereading or re-listening to the book this time. But I thought she was pretty awful in the movie, and
She was pretty
not
awful.
that much in the book. Like she was a little bit more of a.
Well, she gets to tell the story of the book, so of course
That's
she
true.
like,
Yeah,
makes
that's true.
herself blameless in a lot of situations where then like it's like, well, if you were actually there, probably
Yeah,
she had some blame going
yeah,
on.
for sure.
I don't think that she was to blame for Catherine's death.
No, yeah,
That
that was
was
a
a
whole other
rough
thing.
that was a rough look. That was a really rough look for like 18th century obstetrics. That upset us all. I didn't see it coming
No, I didn't either. Like when she
because
pulled away the blanket. Oh, but there will be spoilers. But when she pulled away the blanket, I was like, "Oh my god, what happened?" Like I was shocked. And you saw her Kathy's legs.
which like I didn't know that a person who was canonically a magistrate could diagnose septicemia just by seeing someone's weird veiny legs.
Yeah, yeah.
You know.
Me.
Well,
Maybe
again,
it happens a lot back then. I don't know. Yeah, I don't
18th
know.
century medicine is
Yeah.
truly wild. I did appreciate though that they brought the leeches to play,
Oh
and
my
then
god.
they went up the
They're on the
walls because
wall.
they looked like her skin.
They were like her skin. I thought that too. I was like, oh my god. Yeah, that we'll have a lot
It
to
was
talk
a lot
about
of
with the.
leeches.
Oh my god. Ugh. Um, yeah, that was rough. Yeah, I found myself. Yeah, very. I did cry a couple of times in the middle. Again, I was pretty tired,
Yes.
but it was
Wait,
more.
can I guess the
Sure.
things that made you cry?
Sure. Yeah.
So, well, obviously the end, right? Like I cried at the end when
I was cried out by the end, so.
when they went back to the little kids.
I know that made me really sad.
And
when
then
yeah, yeah.
he like put his arm around her and then she just like smiled. And the smile
like,
would have been
yeah.
enough, but then she moved her hand. I was like, oh.
I know. He's
like,
like,
I
I'll
can't.
always love you. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Emmanuel goes, "Do you think that was genuine?" I was like,
Yeah.
"You better not."
After all that, yes.
Better not play with
Yeah.
the Golden Globe nominated child who was in adolescence.
What was the adolescence kid? Oh my god.
It was
yeah.
I know
Yeah.
he grew up. He is
Yeah.
like full adolescent now.
Oh my god. Wow.
No,
I didn't
okay,
realize
but
that.
wait, another cry scene. When adult Heathcliff went under the bed,
Wait, when did he do that?
I think like after Kathy rejected him and he like didn't, he came back and like she was like, we're not like having an affair. And like he was like waiting for her and waiting for her. And then he went under the bed.
Oh my god. I forgot about that. Yeah. No,
He
I didn't
just
cry
looked like
then.
a little boy, but he was like a grown up, but he was
Oh
under
my
the bed.
god. I know. I think I cried. Let me see. I cried when shit. I think when it was like weird. It was weird spots. It was like when her dad died and he was like following after her. I think I cried then. And I cried when she was
Oh my
talking
God,
to Nellie
were you
once.
not still laughing because of the piled up bottles in the room? That was a big pop of laughter in our
I
theater.
know. I was like, geez, okay. No, it was more like it was funny because a lot of those sets kind of we'll talk about later, but it's about like a pop up book almost. And I was like, that was like a little pop up book moment. But like I think I cried. I think I did cry when at the end when there was the little kids, and I think she was talking to Nellie once. I started crying. I think maybe when she was like
Was
talking
it when she
about...
was dying and she was like, you didn't mean to do it?
Yeah, I think I cried then. And I also think even when she was like, when she was crying to Nellie about like, I can't marry Heathcliff because I'll be degraded. And then I was just like crying about that. I don't know. It was kind of weird spots that like...
No, that's not.
Yeah.
That's the part where you should go. So the first time that I read the book, I was like a puddle when I read that part. And I
Yeah.
think that they missed a bit. I think that in the book when Nellie says, "Where's the problem?" Kathy says, "Here," and she holds her heart, and then she says, "And here," and she holds her head.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
The, feeling like mixed up and feeling like,
Yeah.
the
Like thinking
feelings
too
are
much or whatever.
feeling too many things at the same
Yeah.
time
Yeah.
really got to me as
Yeah.
a reader
Oh,
of it.
yeah, yeah. And I almost feel like I might have cried when he said, "I will." He lifted her up by the bodice, which was also very hot.
That was hot.
Yeah, and then he was like, "I'll follow you like a dog, like anywhere." And then that whole sequence where she like came back and her dad was like, we're ill, I'm ill," and she walked in and Edgar's there and she's like, "Oh, I'm so ashamed of my father," and that whole kind of sequence really got me. I think like that's like all those together.
Yeah, that was a lot, and that was something that is not in the book. So like that is something where like the author, where Emerald Fennell built that tension.
Yeah.
That scene was really stirring from like beginning to end. I think that everything when they're at Wuthering Heights is like,
well, yeah, that's the part that I really liked. When it got a little too smoothed over and it was like skin room and stuff, like fine. It really interesting. Like I liked the sets, I liked the costumes. But I think for me, like her shivering in her bed, him like breaking that chair just like really got me. Like I thought that was so hot.
but then like here's what I think is that like someone should have been editing Emerald Fennell, because then he like says like, "Don't go throw yourself at Linton," and I was like, he didn't need to say it. Like we know what's happening in this scene. Like
it was
shush,
it was a
your
little
pretty mouth.
heavy-handed at times. That was the other thing. It was just
too much dialogue in some of the scenes.
Yeah, he's like, "I will break this chair so you don't have to go through yourself." Obviously,
like I will break this chair no matter what I have to do. I will keep you warm.
Yeah,
he didn't have to say a goddamn thing. It would have been stronger.
No, yeah, and he like knows he can get in trouble with the dad. The dad's an asshole. Like he's
he's tough.
Yeah, but he's like, he also speaks his feelings, and it was. Yeah, so it's a little heavy-handed at time, like her peeking over the wall when she's like all into Thrushcross Grange. Did I say that
Thrushcross Grange?
Thrushcross,
it's hard to say.
I know. Yeah, her peeking over the wall and then being like, "It was a ghost." I thought that was like interesting.
I mean, they had to get ghosts in there somewhere.
There were no
wanted
ghosts.
More ghosts.
I wanted more ghosts. I wanted more dogs. There were not
more
enough
dogs,
or
more
ghosts.
ghosts.
Yeah,
there was one dog.
There was one dog, and it didn't do anything.
0 ghosts.
Actually, there were 2 dogs. There was like one like greyhound at the beginning that was like wandering around.
Okay.
And then there was a little dog that pooped everywhere. That was Isabella's.
Yes. I mean, you have to have that dog, right?
Yeah.
That is the dog.
That is the dog
What's
that
its name?
caused
Fanny.
everything.
Fanny the dog.
Dog that caused all the problems in the book.
Yeah, but they didn't have, oh my God, what were the other names of the dogs? They were so funny. There was like Throttler and...
I forgot.
There was the bulldog was called Throttler.
Yeah, which is
and
hilarious.
The child of Throttler was called like Scrounger or something.
Yeah, something like very, yeah, it was, I think there were parts of it I really liked. I think I need to watch it again, I got the original kind of upset out about it not being the book, and now maybe I can just view it as what it is. So I'm hoping to see it again.
It's a completely different thing.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts? Like, did you have any like laugh out loud moments?
Yes. Let's see what happened. Oh shit. There was a couple times where I like laughed out loud, and it was like one of them made like some quip, but I don't remember exactly. And like when she fell off the wall and then she like straightened herself out, I kind of laughed because he opened the door and there was like a beam of light coming through. But yeah, I'm trying to think. Like there was one thing that was like, I think it was either Heathcliff. I think it was Heathcliff talking about Kathy, and it was a very good quip, but I don't remember.
He did have a couple of good one-liners. Yeah. Also, when he spat the grass.
That was so funny. Oh my God. Yeah. I think I might have laughed at that point too. I was like, yeah. There were some really funny parts.
Yes. The sight gag with the bottles, very funny.
Yeah. That was a pretty funny. That was a pretty good visual gag. I don't think it was Lily of the Valley scene, but like where he was like, "That's just Lily of the Valley," or like I don't know, but there was something like that where he like kind of made a jab at her, which I thought was pretty funny.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And then I like had to remember about Lily of the Valley because I thought it was poisonous. It is
It
poisonous.
is poisonous. Your dogs can't eat it. They
So
will
like
die.
I don't remember the line of dialogue exactly, but like was there something there? Was he saying that
Yeah,
like you thought that it was a beautiful perfume, but it was like a poison or something?
I think, okay, I actually forgot to look this up, so I'm gonna look it up because I was wondering about that. Because the she comes in, he's like, you know, she's been away, and she comes in and or goes up to him, and she's like, well, you know, he's being all an asshole, and
When she returns from Thrushcross Range,
yeah, and
everyone's really excited to see her, even though she looks
yeah,
honestly almost exactly the same. She's wearing like
she's just wearing nicer clothes.
a clean dress versus. This is the other thing is that like I know that they, and we'll talk about this more when we have Stephanie here, but like they wanted to keep her in a really specific color palette for the entire movie, but I could have
Yes.
used maybe more differentiation from like
Yeah.
Wuthering Heights Kathy to Thrushcross
I
Kathy
agree. Yeah.
in
Yeah.
terms of just like the color palette because my eyesight is bad and sometimes all I see is blobs of color and
Yeah. It
so
it was like red and black and white at Wuthering Heights, and more pinks.
it was
at
red and black
Thrush.
and white the whole time. Those are the only
Yeah.
colors she wears the whole time.
Except for pink, which I guess is a red in a way. But
Pink?
yeah.
Does she wear pink or is it just
Oh,
that
yeah.
it's like shiny?
No, I think she wore actual pink. Not that often, but it was more red and white.
Okay.
I don't know what the history is. I don't know because I can't not finding it. But
About the plant?
yeah, I mean, because there was something about it. Because what he said was, she came in, she's like, I can smell you from here. And he's like, well, I can smell you, like all your perfume. She's like, well, it's better than, you know, whatever. And he's like, it's just Lily of the Valley. And she's like, this is not just Lily of the Valley. Like, she was so offended.
Oh, so that it might have been like a less expensive.
Yeah, it might have been like a less expensive thing or something.
Okay. And also,
yeah.
Lily of the Valley only grows in like shady, like kind of damp environments, which I think is like interesting too about that
That's
plant.
interesting. Yeah, it is. Yeah, and it is poisonous. You're right.
Yeah. So
All right,
interesting
well,
stuff.
Interesting. Okay, I'll see if I can find more history. But yeah, maybe we should call a day for part 1, and we're gonna come back for part 2. Maybe the second screening. We'll see. And
Yes, I
Stephanie
know
will
we
be
have
there.
so much to talk about.
So
we really,
much, yeah.
really do have so many thoughts.
Rachel
We
has an
cannot
essay,
do this.
basically.
I have,
Yeah.
I made a very thorough outline.
Yeah. Yes, it's very good. Yeah. But anything else you want to mention in part 1 before we come back?
I mean, I think just like the critical reception of this movie versus like the money, like the box office, like
Yeah.
critics. So I did like a little bit. I didn't do like a quantitative analysis on this, but I did look at like many reviews. The American reviewers were much worse than the English reviewers who liked it very much.
Yeah.
Which I think is very fun.
That is really interesting. Yeah.
And it did, in its opening weekend, it did like $80 million worldwide, but only about $35 million in the US.
Interesting. Okay.
So people around the world love this movie, and I don't know if it's because parts of it, a lot of it, is like these montages where there's no dialogue.
Yeah.
And everything is so visual.
Yeah.
And the dialogue doesn't, you know, it's fine, it's fun, but it doesn't really matter. And I'm wondering if it just like speaks to an international audience who are not necessarily English speakers in that way.
I think that's valid, and this is not to say this is not about anyone who doesn't speak English, but I think that a lot of the complaints I saw about it was that it was just completely it was too simplified. And so I think it's easy to translate literally and figuratively to lots of different points of view. Yeah. So I think
office.
all the international offices love it.
The international office of oh god.
Yeah, but I think it's just, you know, becomes a little bit more easy to interpret when you're not like going through all these layers that are in the book. And so, you know, I think it's it's a tragic love story, essentially, you know, without all these other things. And so, you know, you don't have to necessarily understand all of the other class issues that are different in different countries, that are like, you know, whatever. So I think that's probably part of it too.
Yeah.
But that's a lot of the criticism I saw in the US, is that it just took away all of the complexity. But it, in a way, it made it, you know, a lot more digestible for more people.
They gave it the Bridgerton treatment, which I'm in favor of.
Yeah.
I did think that, like, a lot of the US reviews, especially by people who, like, admitted not reading the book, were, like, a little bit, like, hung up on the Heathcliff not being not white.
Yeah.
And therefore, like, your entire review is just, like, virtue signaling. Like,
I don't love that. Yeah.
You didn't read this book.
Obviously, like, I've brought it up multiple times, but it, for me...
no, but, like, you have thought about it.
Yeah, no, like, it's the bigger context for me. It's not just the fact that, you know, it should have gone to a Black or Indian or South Asian actor. They never actually say where he's from.
I guess is what... So in the movie, we're getting a strong pirate, because in that opening scene, he's with a gentleman that has an earring, and then when he comes back, he has an earring.
Yeah.
So
I know, I noticed that, and I was like, oh, so did he just like go back to his dad? His dad was poor too, but like, in the book they never say like what his race is. They're just like, he's not like us, basically.
He's not like us. Yeah, he's a gypsy. That could be anything. My grandmother was Hungarian, and she called herself a gypsy. So
and they definitely like they identified his skin as being darker, but that really could have, with how white people are in Northern England, it could have been anything.
Especially if they're like living in this area of Wuthering Heights. Like the sun was not out.
Nope.
Which they talked about.
So I think just they're like the sun. But so I think I didn't love the virtue signaling kind of call to arms so much, but it was an important part to me, and it is weird that it's been so ignored in, you know, 4 out of the 5 movie interpretations. It's like, well, how else do you write, you know, I don't know.
I just wonder, like, if people, like, like, if they don't necessarily want that complication in their, like, you know, bodice heaving love story. Which I think Bridgerton, like, kind of does an interesting job of, like, trying to go there sometimes. So, like, it can be done in a way that is still fun and silly and, like, anachronistic.
Because to me, it was so interesting as, you know, a young person who grew up in a pretty homogenous area. It was like, I kind of always imagined my, like, Prince Charming to look just like me, like, be blonde and, like, you know. And so it was so interesting reading it later. I was like, oh, Kathy didn't give a shit about any of that, really, you know. And so it was just like...
And kind of, like, neither did anyone else. Like, they were always, like, you know, Heathcliff is wild, but they said the same things about Kathy, and she was white.
Yeah, but I also think that was because she was hanging out with him so much. I don't know if that necessarily would have been the same thing. I think they would have called her other things. She would have been, you know, I don't know. But we can get into that later. But I just feel like that, I think that the complexity there, people don't really know how to handle it. Because they want to, give him an identity that isn't there in the book. It's just otherness.
Yeah, and like
it's not,
they want to drill down on, like, his lineage. Which is not important.
No. And so...
really which they would know if they read the book. But...
I know.
So that is one thing. And another thing about, like, the international audiences that I think that we have maybe talked about this before. I can't remember what property we were talking about, but we were like, it's never going to make money in America if the gays don't care about it. And the gays do not care about Wuthering Heights.
They don't care about Wuthering Heights, which is so funny. Which is really funny because Jacob Elordi is hot. Jacob Elordi has a great bag collection.
So many good bags.
He wears purses. He's I know that doesn't make him gay, obviously, but, like, I feel I feel like if I were, you know, someone I don't know. I just feel like that's cool. Like as someone who's attracted to men and also likes fashion. Like I know it's not every gay man, obviously, but like
No, Jacob
I just
Elordi
love
is
it.
a fashion girly.
Yeah, I love that about him. Like
He's
yeah.
out there wearing the Matthew Blazy Chanel women's line. He
Oh
is
my
out
god, I love
there.
it. Yeah, all the Bottega Veneta bags. Like oh my
Yes,
god.
like
Yeah.
I don't know why we can't get the gays on board with gothic literature. I feel like maybe we never. Oh, vampires. The gays don't care about vampires. I think that was what it was
Interesting.
when we were talking about like Dracula and stuff.
They don't like. They don't want to deal with the 1800s. Too much trauma.
Too much trauma. And this is the other thing that I think that maybe troubles American audiences about this time period is that like it's such a different time. I don't know how many people are conscious about this, but it's such a different time period in the UK and in America. So in America,
good point.
We have not yet fought the Civil War, but we're like about to, kind of. We're 20 years shy of the Civil War during
when the book was written.
When the book was written,
yeah, and then it's set in the late 1700s, right?
Yeah, so just like very, very different landscape.
For sure, and that's
in many ways.
For sure, and that's another reason why I think the race thing would be hard in a movie in the U.S. right now, because you could not, not bring that baggage.
No, we're in such a different place. So like, I understand why like there are complications to the way that it would play.
For sure.
And I think it's fine. I think that Jacob Elordi is great. He's the world's tallest Australian, and
it's funny that like they're all Australian. Like no one is from England in this movie.
If Emily Bronte were to be scandalized by anything about this movie, she would be scandalized by the casting of Australians.
Yeah.
But she would also not be and this is the other reason that I think that like international audiences are so on board. There's no nudity in this romance.
I noticed that too. Yeah, Margot Robbie does not show her boobs.
Which I understand. Like she literally was like not even several months postpartum when she shot this movie.
Oh my God.
Which is incredible.
Yeah.
She put on those corsets and like,
oh my God. Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
And like, she's the producer and she doesn't have to do anything she doesn't want to do.
No. But we didn't really see anything but Jacob Elordi's like bare chest. That was about
chest. I could have used
like a butt like from Jacob Elordi.
35% more nudity.
Yeah, it have to be a lot. We don't want to like.
It doesn't have to be True Blood.
No,
but like just something to let people know that like adults can enjoy this film too.
Yeah, it was a little bit like. I mean, I understand. I mean, maybe we could justify it and say that they were brushed all the time and blah blah blah. But like
it was sold to us as being like a bodice ripper, and then it was like pretty tame.
I read somewhere someone was like, I thought this was gonna be like a crazy movie going in, and it was basically like a regular period drama in a lot of ways, and
like we did not. I don't know. In my opinion, we did not get enough of. But I understand, it's like in 2026, Gen Z audiences get freaked out by sex in movies. They don't want to see it. They're not here for it.
Gen Z is so weird. Not that like that's unhealthy. It's just like so different than how we grew up.
They're ruining media. You can just say it. It's fine. We need
it's just so different from how we grew up. It was like American Pie was big, like all this.
Oh my God. Like all of the 80s sex comedies where like women would just like take their top off for no reason.
Yeah. I mean, I'm
like,
glad that we don't have to show our boobs for no reason. Like in movies, we mean women in film, which I am not, but you know what I mean.
But sometimes it's like I want to see something. I want there to be like, I don't know, visually it's easy to kind of like glaze over the action if there's not something to show you like necessarily that there's stakes. So it doesn't have to be like a lot of nudity.
No.
But what I was missing, I guess, from the sex scenes was like a real sense of intimacy, because a lot of them
like vulnerability.
Very
Yeah.
And a lot of them like the framing was pretty wide.
Yeah.
Because she wanted to get the shots of like the beautiful moors or like the rain, and like I understand, but it felt a little bit like a music video, and it was a montage.
Yes.
So like it was kind of a music video in the
Yeah.
middle there.
Yeah. I definitely, I understand that completely. I did lose a little bit of the vulnerability with, because it felt like, oh, they're having a lot of sex, but I'm not really seeing like the connection there necessarily, you know? So like I know it's there because we hear all the dialogue and stuff, but like it wasn't quite.
But then that could have been done like without sex scenes completely. That could have been done with like stolen glances in the hallway, and like if they were just trying to show us that they're having a lot of sex. So
because we had also seen like so many back and skin close-ups up until that point, and all of a sudden it's all wide shots. Like it was just very weird. I don't know. Yeah.
I did think though that like the sexiest scene was that first scene where she was like watching through the floor.
Oh, that was so hot. Like, yes.
Watching
when he like covers her eyes and the mouth. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like,
oh my God.
That was the hottest scene, and it was
For
just a shot of her face, and no one was doing anything.
Yeah.
So
that
you
was
can
so sexy. Yeah.
achieve the intimacy without the nudity.
Yeah.
But you like have to do it.
Yeah. Exactly. That's I think the beginning, those scenes in the beginning is where I really was like, oh, I bought into those. And that was like such a sexy scene because.
And in that scene, you can overhear them having like informed, enthusiastic consent conversation.
Yes, that's true. That is very true. And
it's very funny. So we're not here to kink shame anybody or their bridals or whatever was going on in that barn.
Yeah. And it was completely, I think there's a level of intimacy there that we saw with Heathcliff and Kathy that had nothing to do with them having sex, but it felt like so in sync. It was crazy that they were like, so.
Yeah.
It was interesting.
It was a good scene. It was good stuff. Yeah. Mostly it was good stuff. I really liked this movie. I can't wait to see it again.
I'm going to see it. Yeah, me too. But all right, so part 1. We'll be back for part 2, talking a little bit more about the technical stuff, perhaps.
Yes, we're going to get into it with the sets, the costumes, any kind of tea that we heard from the set. I've been getting, my feed is almost all Wuthering Heights content, so...
I know. Me too.
We'll have a lot to talk about.
Yeah. But
I have some thoughts on the production.
Yeah.
On the skin room. On just Wuthering Heights generally. And I want to talk so much more about Alison Oliver and just her life in Emerald Fennell movies, her life generally, just all of it.
She was great. She was really she really embodied that role. So, all right, cool. Okay, thanks for joining us, everyone.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
Oh, we always forget to tell everyone that they can follow us on socials and that we hope that they do. We are at NY Sofalites on Instagram, and you can watch this podcast on YouTube. If you are audio only and you want to listen to us, we would love for you to do that on Spotify, and we will see you. Oh, and you can find us anywhere. You can literally find us anywhere you get your podcasts.
Yeah.
And we hope you do, and we would love to hear from you. You can always email us at nysofalites@gmail.com.
Yeah, thank you, and let us know what your thoughts are if you have any that we want to share. Right, wrong, whatever.
Were your heights withered?
Yes. Were they withered? Are you... I also read not review that said this is a very moist movie. Is that what it said? It was more of like a damp movie. It was a damp movie, I'd
It was
say.
Sticky in some parts. There were a lot of slug things happening.
Oh, being needed. Yes. All right.
Yeah.
Anyways, we'll get more into it next time. But thank you all for joining. Yeah.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.